It's 4 a.m. and I'm wrestling Mom into a clean nightgown. Her body, once so vibrant and strong, feels like a collection of fragile bones under my hands. Cancer has a way of stealing everything piece by piece. I'm Presley, 32, and this has been my life for the past year and a half. Feeding her, bathing her, turning her every few hours to prevent bed sores. The small kindnesses, the endless repetitions, they wear you down in a way nothing else can. Sometimes when she's lucid, Mom, Maria, 62, will squeeze my hand and whisper, "Thank you, mijija." And for a moment, the exhaustion lifts. This past weekend, though, was anything but quiet. My older sister, Juliana, 36, decided to grace us with her presence. A rare weekend visit, as she called it, like she was doing us a favor. Juliana always sweeps in like a whirlwind, all charm and perfectly styled hair, making me feel like the frumpy, tired shadow I've become. She spent most of her time on the phone or making elaborate meals that Mom could barely touch, but she made sure everyone saw her effort. Aunt Vivienne, 55, Mom's younger sister, came by on Saturday, bringing her usual judgmental gaze. She'd watch me change Mom's IV bag, then turn to Juliana with a sympathetic look, as if I were some kind of tyrant. Even my cousin Wyatt, 34, who usually just tries to stay out of everyone's way, seemed to be looking at me differently. I heard Vivian whispering to him in the kitchen about how I was so possessive of Mom, how I never let anyone else help. It stung, but I just nodded and kept doing what needed to be done. What was I supposed to do? Let Mom suffer while Juliana played hostess? Juliana finally left Sunday afternoon, leaving behind a trail of perfume and a mountain of dirty dishes. I just wanted to crash, but Mom needed her medication. I was finally about to collapse into bed when my phone buzzed. It was a notification from Mom's bank, a large withdrawal, $80,000. My stomach dropped. I knew for a fact that wasn't for any medical expenses. Sleep didn't come easy after that bank notification. My mind raced, replaying Juliana's visit, her casual questions about Mom's finances, the way she'd spent an unusual amount of time on Mom's laptop, helping her check emails. The $80,000 withdrawal wasn't a bill payment. I handled all of Mom's medical expenses and knew her accounts inside and out. This was different. This was a gaping hole. First thing, Monday morning, I logged into Mom's online banking. The transaction was clear, a transfer of $80,000 to an account I didn't recognize. I cross-referenced it with recent statements, nothing else like it. My heart hammered against my ribs as a cold dread settled in. It had to be Juliana. She was the only one who had been here, had access to Mom's computer, and knew her passwords. I called Juliana. Her voice, when she finally answered, was bright and airy, like she hadn't just drained Mom's savings. "Presley, everything okay? You sound stressed." "Juliana," I started, trying to keep my voice even, "I need to ask you about Mom's bank account. There was an $80,000 transfer over the weekend. Do you know anything about it?" There was a beat of silence, then a gasp. $80,000? Presley, what are you talking about? Are you saying I took it? How dare you? I was helping Mom, checking her bills like a good daughter should. You're the one with access to everything, living here, controlling her money. Her voice escalated, turning shrill. "This sounds like you trying to cover your tracks." The accusation hit me like a physical blow. I stammered, trying to explain, but she just kept talking over me, painting me as the greedy, controlling caregiver. By the time she hung up, my hands were shaking. Later that day, my phone started blowing up, not from Juliana, but from Vivienne. "Presley, what is this I'm hearing about you stealing from Maria?" she demanded, her voice tight with disapproval. "Juliana just called me, in tears. She said you're accusing her of taking money, but it sounds like you're the one who's been dipping into Mom's savings." Wyatt sent a terse text. "Heard about the money. Hope you can sort it out." He didn't ask for my side. They believed Juliana, just like she knew they would. By Tuesday afternoon, I couldn't even access Mom's online banking. My login was rejected. I called the bank and they informed me that due to suspicious activity and a report of potential elder financial abuse, the joint account had been frozen. My access was revoked pending an investigation. The rumors, I realized, weren't just swirling, they were solidifying into a narrative, and I was the villain. The days that followed Juliana's phone call and the frozen bank account felt like wading through thick mud. The family, or what was left of it, had decisively chosen sides. Vivienne, fueled by Juliana's tearful performance, became the ringleader of the smear campaign. My phone, once quiet, now buzzed with texts from distant cousins I hadn't spoken to in years, all echoing Vivian's narrative. Heard about the money, so sad what people do for inheritance. How could you do this to your own mother? Wyatt, true to form, just vanished. He stopped returning my calls, and when I saw him at the grocery store, he practically ran down an aisle to avoid eye contact. I wanted to scream, to defend myself, to lay out every single piece of evidence I had. But every time I looked at Mom, frail and fading in her bed, the words died in my throat. How could I drag her into this ugliness? Her last days shouldn't be a battleground over money. Her peace was more important than my reputation. Presley, you have to fight this, Brianna, my best friend, urged during one of our late night calls. She was my only lifeline, the only one who truly believed me. They're destroying you. Juliana is a master manipulator, you know that. You can't just let her get away with it. I can't, Bree, I whispered, tears finally escaping. Mom's barely hanging on. If I start a war, it'll kill her faster. I can't. The thought of Mom hearing her daughters fighting, of seeing the family torn apart because of this, was unbearable. I just kept telling myself that I needed to protect her, even if it meant sacrificing myself. A few days later, a formal-looking letter arrived in the mail. It was addressed to Mom, but I opened it, my hands trembling. It was from Desmond Wright, the family lawyer, 62, who had handled Mom's affairs for decades. The letter stated that he had been contacted by Juliana regarding concerns about Maria Rivera's financial well-being and potential caregiver abuse. My blood ran cold. Juliana hadn't just spread rumors. She was actively building a legal case against me, using the very lawyer Mom trusted. She was moving fast and she was ruthless. The letter from Desmond hit me harder than any of Vivian's gossip. It wasn't just whispers now, it was a formal accusation, a legal threat. My isolation deepened. Calls from relatives stopped entirely. Even the occasional texts from distant family members that used to be about Mom's health now just ceased. It was like I'd been erased. Mom, growing weaker by the day, started to pick up on the tension. She'd look at me with a questioning gaze, her eyes clouded by medication and illness. "What's wrong, mija?" she'd whisper, her voice barely audible. "Why isn't anyone calling? Where's Juliana?" I tried to reassure her, inventing excuses, but I could see the doubt creeping into her eyes. The accusations, even unspoken, were starting to poison her peace, and that hurt more than anything. It brought me back to when I was 10 and Juliana was 14. Dad had just left. Mom was a wreck, and I was trying to be strong for her. Juliana, though, she just got angry. She lashed out, blaming Mom, blaming me for being too quiet, for not doing anything. She started telling Mom that Dad left because Mom was too demanding, too focused on her work. I remember Mom just shrinking, taking it all in. I tried to defend her, but Juliana just turned her fury on me. "You're just Mom's little shadow, Presley. You'll never be anything on your own." It was then I realized Juliana saw Mom's love as a finite resource, something she had to fight me for. Now, Juliana was back, performing the role of the devoted daughter. She'd visit, bring in flowers Mom couldn't smell, or expensive blankets Mom couldn't feel. She'd sit by Mom's bedside, stroking her hair, whispering reassurances, all while shooting me triumphant glances when she thought Mom wasn't looking. "Oh, Mom, I'm so worried about you," she'd coo, loud enough for me to hear. "I just want to make sure you're being taken care of properly." It was a subtle, insidious manipulation, playing on Mom's vulnerability, twisting the knife. One evening after Juliana had left, Mom was drifting in and out of sleep. I was adjusting her pillows when her eyes fluttered open. She looked directly at me, her gaze surprisingly clear for a moment. Her hand reached out, weakly grasping mine. "Don't let her hurt you again," she whispered, her voice a fragile breath. Then her eyes closed and she was gone again, leaving me with those chilling words hanging in the air. Mom's whispered words, "Don't let her hurt you again," echoed in my mind for days. I wanted to believe she was truly lucid, that she understood, but her lucidity was fleeting. The cancer was relentless. One morning I found her struggling to breathe, her skin clammy and pale. Panic seized me. I called 911, my hands shaking as I gave instructions to the paramedics. It was an agonizing blur of sirens, flashing lights, and the terrifying rush to the emergency room. At the hospital, the air was thick with the sterile scent of antiseptic and the unspoken fear of what was to come. I sat by Mom's bedside, holding her hand, listening to the rhythmic beeping of machines that were now keeping her alive. Outside the room, the family tensions were a palpable hum. Juliana arrived, of course, followed closely by Vivienne and Wyatt. They huddled together in the waiting area, their whispers occasionally carrying to me. I could feel their eyes on me, a mixture of pity and accusation. A few hours later, the doctor called for a family meeting. He spoke in hushed, grave tones about Mom's deteriorating condition. As soon as he finished, Juliana seized the moment. She stood up, her voice clear and strong, cutting through the somber atmosphere. "Doctor, I also need to express my serious concerns about my mother's financial well-being. My sister, Presley, has been her sole caregiver and has had full access to her accounts. $80,000 has gone missing, and I have reason to believe it was taken by Presley. I am prepared to call the police and pursue legal action for elder financial abuse." The words hung in the air, a public accusation delivered with chilling precision. Vivienne nodded emphatically, her gaze fixed on me. Wyatt shifted uncomfortably, looking at the floor. My face burned, but I said nothing. What was the point? Arguing with Juliana now in front of everyone, with Mom clinging to life just meters away, would only cause more distress. I just stood there, enduring the humiliation, my silence my only shield. The doctor, looking bewildered, quickly ended the meeting. As the family dispersed, Juliana gave me a cold, triumphant smile. I walked back to Mom's room, my legs heavy. She was barely conscious, her breathing shallow. The nurses were moving with a new urgency, their faces grim. It was clear. Mom was taking a turn for the worse. Everyone knew what that meant. We were preparing for her imminent death. The hospital room was quiet, save for the soft hum of machines. Hours bled into each other. The family had mostly dispersed, leaving only Juliana, Vivienne, and me in the waiting area, each lost in our own thoughts, or perhaps in Juliana's case, in anticipation. The nurses kept coming and going, their hushed tones confirming our worst fears. We were all just waiting. Then something shifted. A nurse came out, her expression less grim, more surprised. "Maria is asking for Presley," she said softly, "and she's very lucid." My heart leapt. I rushed into the room. Mom's eyes were open, clear and bright, focused entirely on me. She looked weak, but there was a strength in her gaze I hadn't seen in months. "Presley," she whispered, her voice a little stronger than before. "A pen, and Desmond. Please." I quickly found a pen and paper from the nurse's station and called Desmond. He arrived surprisingly quickly, his usual composed demeanor replaced by a look of confusion as he saw Mom's sudden lucidity. The family gathered again, a strange mix of hope and morbid curiosity. They expected last rites, a final goodbye. Juliana stood at the foot of the bed, a smirk playing on her lips, probably envisioning her inheritance. Desmond approached Mom's bedside. "Maria, are you sure about this?" he asked gently, holding her hand. Mom nodded firmly. "Yes, Desmond. Bring my will. I need to make some changes, and I want everyone here to witness it." A ripple went through the room. Juliana's smirk vanished, replaced by a flicker of unease. Desmond retrieved the documents, and Mom, with surprising clarity, dictated her wishes. She spoke calmly, deliberately, her words cutting through the tension. She amended several clauses specifically addressing the recent financial turmoil. She stated that due to recent events and unwavering loyalty, she was leaving the majority of her estate, including the house, to me. She then looked directly at me, a profound love in her eyes. "Thank you, Mejia, for everything, for your endless love and care. You are my rock." Then her gaze shifted to Juliana, cold and unwavering. "And as for the missing funds, Desmond, I want you to investigate the transfer of $80,000 from my account. I believe it was an unauthorized transaction." Juliana's face drained of color, her jaw tightened, her eyes wide with a mixture of devastation and pure, unadulterated rage. "You can't do this!" she shrieked, her voice echoing in the stunned silence of the room. "This is undue influence. Presley has manipulated you. I'll contest this. I'll see you in court." She stormed out of the room, leaving a stunned silence in her wake. Juliana's vow to contest the will wasn't an empty threat. Within weeks of Mom's passing, the legal letters started arriving. First, a formal notice of intent to challenge the will, alleging undue influence and elder abuse on my part. Then, a summons. Juliana had made good on her promise, suing me, claiming I had manipulated a dying woman. The family splintered even further. Vivienne, predictably, became Juliana's most vocal supporter. She took to social media, posting thinly veiled accusations about my greed and manipulative nature, painting me as a villain who had taken advantage of her own mother. Relatives I barely knew started sending me hateful messages, some even leaving anonymous calls. The media, catching wind of the family inheritance battle, picked up the story, and suddenly my life was under a microscope. I faced public shaming and legal scrutiny, all while still grieving Mom. It was a brutal, exhausting period. Every day felt like a battle. But this time, I wasn't silent. Mom's final act of clarity, her unwavering trust in me, gave me a strength I didn't know I had. Brianna was my rock, answering my calls at all hours, reminding me of the truth. "Presley, your mom knew. That's all that matters," she'd say, her voice firm. Desmond, Mom's lawyer, was also a steady presence. He had witnessed Mom's lucidity, her clear intent, and he was determined to uphold her wishes. The court proceedings were grueling. Juliana, polished and articulate, spun a narrative of a vulnerable mother manipulated by a controlling caregiver. She brought up the frozen bank account, the accusations Vivienne had spread. But Desmond was prepared. He presented Mom's amended will, signed and witnessed. He called hospital staff who could attest to Mom's unexpected lucidity that day. And crucially, he presented the bank's investigation report. The report detailed the $80,000 transfer. It showed the funds had been moved from Mom's account to an account solely in Juliana's name, initiated from Mom's laptop during the weekend Juliana had visited. The evidence was irrefutable. Juliana's carefully constructed facade crumbled under the weight of the facts. The court ruled swiftly and decisively in my favor, citing Maria's clear intent and the undeniable evidence of Juliana's unauthorized withdrawal. Juliana was publicly disgraced, her lies exposed for all to see. The verdict was a victory, but it felt hollow. The truth was out, but the family was shattered. After the court's verdict, Juliana vanished, ostracized by even her most loyal supporters and facing the financial ruin of legal fees and a tarnished reputation. She packed up and left town, not a word to anyone. Vivian and Wyatt remained steadfast in their refusal to apologize. I never heard from Vivian again, and Wyatt continued his pattern of avoidance, a ghost in the family landscape. Their silence was its own kind of apology, I suppose, or at least an acknowledgment of the truth. The revenge wasn't the court's verdict itself, or the public humiliation Juliana faced. It was the simple, undeniable truth finally being exposed. Mom's final act had ensured that. It brought a quiet peace, a sense of vindication that settled deep in my bones, but it wasn't a triumphant feeling. Winning didn't magically heal the gaping wounds left by the betrayal. My family was splintered beyond repair, and my own reputation, though legally cleared, still carried the faint stain of accusation in some circles. The cost of justice was high. A few weeks later, I found myself at Mom's grave alone. The headstone was simple, just her name and dates. The air was crisp, the sky a clear blue. I knelt, placing a small bouquet of her favorite white roses. "We did it, Mom," I whispered, a tear tracing a path down my cheek. The truth came out. The house was mine now, but it felt empty without her. The constant caregiving had defined my life for so long, and now, in its absence, I felt a strange void, but also a burgeoning sense of possibility. Brianna had been incredible throughout everything, a true sister when my own had been anything but. She was my chosen family, and with her I knew I could build something new. I stood up, brushing dirt from my knees. The past few years had been a crucible, forging me into someone stronger, more resilient. I had learned the hard way about loyalty, betrayal, and the enduring power of a mother's love. My life wouldn't be defined by the shadows of the past. I would build a quieter, healthier life, surrounded by people who truly cared, and I would do better by